Elena Martinez stood outside the towering glass building, her hands trembling as she clutched the envelope containing her son's medical reports. The October wind whipped through downtown Seattle, cutting through her thin jacket like ice. Had never felt smaller than she did at this moment, staring up at the headquarters of Cross Technologies 6 months ago. Her world had shattered when doctors diagnosed her 6-year-old son, Tommy, with a rare genetic condition called Morquio syndrome. The treatments were experimental, expensive, and not covered by insurance. The bills were piling up faster than she could count, and her part-time job at the local bookstore barely covered their basic needs. The last resort, Elena had spent weeks researching Daniel Cross, the enigmatic billionaire who owned the tech empire. Above her, she knew he was 34, unmarried, and had built his fortune from nothing. More importantly, she had discovered his company's charitable foundation focused heavily on children's medical research. Taking a deep breath, Lena pushed through the revolving doors into the marble lobby. The security guard looked at her with suspicion as she approached. "I need to see Daniel Cross," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The guard almost laughed. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but this is about life and death." It's breaking through the walls after 3 hours of waiting and being turned away twice. Elena finally convinced James Foster, Daniel's assistant, to give her 5 minutes. She was escorted to the 50th floor, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city. Daniel Cross entered the conference room like a storm front. Tall, with dark hair and steel-gray eyes, he moved with the confidence of a man who had never heard the word impossible. His black suit was perfectly tailored, and his expression was as cold as the Seattle rain outside. "You have 5 minutes," he said without sitting down. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. "Mr. Cross, my name is Elena Martinez. I'm here about my son." She placed Tommy's photo on the table. It's a beautiful boy with bright brown eyes and a gap-toothed smile that could light up any room. He's 6 years old, and he's dying. The shocking proposal. Daniel glanced at the photo but remained unmoved. "I'm sorry for your situation, but my foundation receives thousands of requests. There's a proper application process." "I've tried that." "Process," Elena said, her voice cracking. "It takes months, and Tommy doesn't have months. He needs treatment now." She pulled out the medical reports, spreading them across the polished table. "Experimental treatment costs $2 million. Insurance won't cover it because it's not FDA approved yet, but it's his only chance." Daniel's expression softened slightly as he looked at the documents. "Why come to me directly?" Elena took the biggest leap of her life. "Because I'm not just asking for charity. I'm offering you something in return. And what could you possibly offer me?" Her next words came out in a rush before she could lose. Her courage, marriage, the silence in the room was deafening. Daniel stared at her as if she had spoken in a foreign language. "Excuse me? Is the business case for Elena?" Forced herself to continue. "I've done my research, Mr. Cross. You're brilliant at business, but your personal life is a disaster. The media constantly speculates about why you're still single at 34. Your company's stock has taken hits because investors worry about your stability." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Get to the point. Marry me," Elena said simply. "Quiet. Ceremony. A stable family image. I'll be the perfect wife for public appearances. In exchange, you pay for Tommy's treatment and give us a comfortable life. When Tommy is healthy and the media attention dies down, we can quietly divorce." She reached into her purse and pulled out a handwritten contract. "I've thought this through. No emotional complications. No demands on your time beyond what's necessary for appearances. Think of it as a business merger." The man behind the fortune, Daniel, walked to the window, his back to her. "You think I'm that desperate for a wife that I'd enter into a fake marriage with a complete stranger? I think you're smart enough to recognize a mutually beneficial arrangement when you see one." He turned around, studying her with new interest. "You have no idea what you're asking for. My life isn't a fairy tale, Ms. Martinez. I work 8-hour days. I have enemies who would love to use my family against me. The media scrutiny alone would crush most people. My son is dying," Elena said quietly. "Compared to that, everything else is just noise." For the first time since entering the room, Daniel sat down, picked up Tommy's photo again, really looking at it this time. Tell me about him. A mother's love. Elena's face transformed as she spoke about her son. Tommy loves dinosaurs and thinks vegetables are a government conspiracy. He builds the most amazing castles out of cardboard boxes and believes his stuffed dragon can really fly. He's brave beyond his years and never complains, even when the treatments make him sick. Her voice broke slightly. He asked me last week if he was going to see his daddy in heaven soon. I've been a single mother since birth, Mr. Cross. Tommy's father left when I told him I was pregnant. But my son shouldn't have to die because I chose poorly in men. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. What makes you think I'd be any better? Because you built something from nothing. Because you understand what it means to fight for what matters. And because I can see in your eyes that you're not as heartless as you pretend to be. The unexpected yes. Daniel stood and walked to his desk, picking up his phone. James, cancel my afternoon meetings. He turned back to Elena. I need to see your son's complete medical file. I want to speak with his doctors. If this treatment has a real chance of working, we'll discuss terms. Elena's legs nearly gave out. Does that mean it means I'm considering your proposal? But understand this, Ms. Martinez. If we do this, it won't be half-hearted. I don't do anything halfway. We'd need to convince everyone, including my board of directors and the media, that this marriage is real. I can do that, Elena whispered. Can you? Daniel's gray eyes searched her face. Because once we start this charade, there's no backing out. My reputation and your son's life will both depend on our ability to sell this story. Seeds of something real. That evening, Daniel surprised himself by driving to the address Elena had given him. It was a small apartment complex in a modest neighborhood, nothing like the world he was accustomed to. Through a window on the second floor, he could see Elena helping a small boy with what looked like homework. The boy must be Tommy, even from a distance. Daniel could see the child's fragile appearance, the way he moved carefully, as if his body might betray him at any moment. But he was smiling, animated as he showed his mother something in his book. Daniel had never wanted children. His own childhood had been a series of boarding schools and absent parents. He had convinced himself that family was a luxury he couldn't afford in his quest to build an empire. But watching Elena ruffle her son's hair, seeing the pure joy on Tommy's face, something shifted inside him. Maybe it was the memory of his own lonely childhood, or maybe it was the realization that all his success meant nothing if he couldn't use it. To save one small boy's life, the decision. The next morning, Elena's phone rang at 7 a.m. Ms. Martinez. This is Daniel Cross. I've reviewed Tommy's medical files with 3 different specialists. The treatment has a 70% success rate. Elena's heart stopped. And I'm prepared to accept your proposal. We'll need to move quickly. Tommy should start treatment within the next 2 weeks, which means we need to be married by Friday. By Friday? Elena gasped. The media needs time to adjust to the story before Tommy's treatment begins. We'll announce our engagement today, Mary on Friday, and Tommy starts treatment on Monday. James is already working on the details. Elena sank into her kitchen chair, overwhelmed. Mr. Krause, I call me Daniel. We're about to become family after all. There was a pause, and when Daniel spoke again, his voice was softer. Elena, I want you to understand something. While this may have started as a business arrangement, I take marriage seriously. I'll provide for you and Tommy as if you were truly my family. That's not part of our contract. That's just who I am. As Elena hung up the phone, she realized she might have just made the best decision of her life, or the most complicated one. Only time would tell which. 5 days later, Elena stood in front of a full-length mirror in the bridal suite of Seattle's most exclusive hotel. The ivory silk dress Daniel had chosen fit her perfectly, though she wondered how he had known her size. Everything about this moment felt surreal. You look beautiful, Mama, Tommy said from his wheelchair beside her. The excitement of the day had tired him, but his eyes sparkled with joy. Are you really going to be Mrs. Cross? Elena knelt beside him, careful not to wrinkle her dress. Yes, sweetheart. And Daniel is going to help you get better. Will he? Be my new daddy. The innocent question caught Elena off guard. In all her planning, She had focused on the business aspects of their arrangement. She hadn't considered how to explain this complex situation to a 6-year-old. "Daniel's going to take care of us," she said carefully. "He's a very important man who wants to help you feel better." A ceremony of necessity, the wedding was small but elegant. Daniel had insisted on making it appear genuine, so he invited key board members, a few close business associates, and surprisingly, Dr. Rebecca Wells, Tommy's specialist. Elena's mother, Linda Martinez, had flown in from Phoenix, her face a mixture of concern and hope. As Elena walked down the aisle, she caught sight of Daniel waiting at the altar. He looked stunning in his charcoal gray suit, but there was something in his expression she couldn't read. When their eyes met, he offered a small, reassuring smile that seemed genuinely warm. The ceremony itself was brief. When the minister asked if they took each other as husband and wife, both answered, "I do." With surprising conviction, when Daniel kissed her, it was gentle and respectful, lasting just long enough to appear authentic to their audience. Moving into a new world, Daniel's mansion in the exclusive Medina neighborhood was like stepping into a magazine. 30 rooms, a private gym, indoor pool, and a view of Lake Washington that took Elena's breath away. But what surprised her most was the wing Daniel had specially prepared for Tommy. "I had it designed with his mobility needs in mind," Daniel explained as he showed them around. "The physical therapist will come here 3 times a week, and there's a playroom that connects to your bedroom suite." Elena watched Tommy's face light up as he saw the elaborate train set already assembled and waiting for him. "This is for me?" he whispered. "All yours, buddy," Daniel said. Elena noticed how naturally he interacted with her son, the first crack in the walls that evening. After Tommy was settled in his new room, Elena found Daniel in his study. He was still in his wedding clothes, but his tie was loosened and his sleeves rolled up. He looked up from his laptop as she entered. "Thank you," she said simply. "For all of this?" "Tommy hasn't smiled this much in months." Daniel closed his laptop. "You don't need to thank me. We had an agreement. Still, what you've done today goes beyond any contract." Lena sat in the chair across from his desk. "I know this isn't easy for you either. Having strangers invade your space, disrupting your routine. It's not as difficult as I expected," Daniel admitted. "Tommy is remarkable. He's been through so much, yet he's still so optimistic." "He gets that from his father," Elena said without thinking, then immediately regretted it. Daniel's expression hardened slightly. "You mentioned Tommy's father left when you told him about the pregnancy." "He did. Miguel was charming and handsome, but when reality hit, he disappeared. I was 22, working 2 jobs to put myself through nursing school. Having a baby wasn't in my plans, but once Tommy was born," she smiled softly. "He became my entire world." In expected moments over the next few weeks, their routine began to take shape. Daniel left early for work, but always returned in time for dinner. To Elena's surprise, he insisted they eat together as a family. He would ask Tommy about his day, help with homework, and even joined in building elaborate block towers. One evening, Elena came downstairs to find Daniel and Tommy on the living room floor, surrounded by toy dinosaurs. "The T-Rex is the king of all dinosaurs," Tommy was explaining with great seriousness. "But the Brachiosaurus is the tallest, so he can see everything." "That's important in business too," Daniel replied, equally serious. "Sometimes you need to see the bigger picture." Elena watched from the doorway, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. This wasn't supposed to be part of their arrangement. The treatment begins on Monday morning. They arrived at Seattle Children's Hospital together. Dr. Rebecca Wells met them in her office, reviewing Tommy's treatment plan one final time. "The enzyme replacement therapy is administered intravenously twice a week," she explained. "We'll monitor Tommy's progress closely, but we should start seeing improvements within the first month." Tommy was brave during his first treatment, though Elena could see the fear in his eyes. Daniel surprised everyone by staying for the entire 4-hour session, working on his laptop while keeping up a steady stream of conversation with Tommy, about everything from space travel to why pizza was a perfectly acceptable breakfast food. "You don't have to stay," Elena whispered to him during a quiet moment. "I want to," Daniel replied, and she could tell he meant it. The media stormed by the second week of their marriage. The media attention was intense. Photos of their small family appeared on magazine covers with headlines like "Tech Billionaire's Secret Romance" and "Love Conquers All, the Cross Family Story." Daniel had hired a security team and a public relations firm to manage the attention, but it was still overwhelming. Reporters camped outside the hospital during Tommy's treatments, and paparazzi followed them to the grocery store. "I'm sorry," Alina said after a particularly aggressive photographer had shouted questions at them outside a restaurant. "I didn't realize it would be this intense." "This is normal for me," Daniel said, though she noticed how protective he had become. Always positioning himself between her and the cameras, growing closer 3 weeks into their marriage. Lena woke up in the middle of the night to find Tommy's bed empty. Panic shot through her until she heard voices from downstairs. She found Daniel and Tommy in the kitchen, making what appeared to be elaborate ice cream sundaes. "We're having a midnight snack," Tommy announced, completely matter-of-fact. Daniel couldn't sleep either. "Insomnia," Daniel explained with a slight smile. Tommy suggested ice cream might help. Alina noticed that Daniel was wearing pajama pants and a t-shirt instead of his usual suit. His hair was messed up, and he looked younger, more relaxed. "Did it work?" she asked, accepting the spoon Tommy offered her. "Actually, yes," Daniel said, looking surprised. The turning point: 1 month into treatment, Dr. Wells delivered news that changed everything. Tommy's enzyme levels were improving dramatically. His mobility was increasing, and his energy levels were the highest they had been in over a year. "The treatment is working beyond our best expectations," Dr. Wells told them. "Tommy is responding beautifully." That night, after Tommy was asleep, Alina found Daniel on the terrace overlooking the lake. He was holding a glass of wine and staring out at the water. "Double quotes, penny for your thoughts," she said, joining him. "I was thinking about purpose," Daniel said, quietly. "I've spent my entire adult life building a company, accumulating wealth, achieving success. But watching Tommy get stronger these past few weeks, I've never felt like I was doing something that truly mattered before." Alina studied his profile in the moonlight. "You've saved my son's life, Daniel. That matters more than anything." "He's saved mine too," Daniel said, then seemed surprised by his own admission. Crossing the line, the moment that changed everything happened on a rainy Thursday evening. Alina was reading to Tommy in his room when she heard a crash from downstairs, followed by shouting. She rushed down to find Daniel standing in his study, his laptop shattered on the floor, papers scattered everywhere. "Daniel," she said softly. He spun around, and she saw something broken in his expression. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to." "See what happened?" "My father," Daniel said bitterly. He called. "He's contesting my mother's will, trying to take control of the family trust. He wants to use Tommy's medical expenses as evidence that I'm fiscally irresponsible." Elena's heart clenched. "He can't do that, can he? He can try. And the media attention from our marriage isn't helping. Some people are calling it a publicity stunt." Without thinking, Alina crossed the room and took his hands in hers. "Daniel, look at me. Tommy is getting better because of you. That's not a publicity stunt. That's a miracle." Daniel stared down at their joined hands. "Alina, I need to tell you something. This arrangement we made, it's not just business for me anymore." The words hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. "It's not just business for me either," Alina whispered. When Daniel kissed her this time, it wasn't for show or for cameras. It was real, tender, and full of all the feelings they had been trying to ignore. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Alina was making breakfast when James Foster arrived with a woman in an expensive suit who introduced herself as Patricia Stone. "Mr. Cross," Judge Stone said when Daniel joined them in the kitchen. "I'm here regarding some serious allegations made by your father's legal team." Alina's stomach dropped. Tommy was upstairs getting ready for school, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around them. "What kind of allegations?" Daniel asked, his business mask sliding back into place. "That this marriage is fraudulent, arranged solely for financial gain and media manipulation. If proven true, it could invalidate your guardianship of Tommy and result in criminal charges for marriage fraud." Fighting for family, the next few hours were a blur of lawyers, depositions, and invasive questions. Elena found herself defending every aspect of their relationship to strangers who seemed determined to find cracks in their story. "When did you first realize you loved your husband?" Judge Stone asked during Elena's private interview. Elena hesitated. The truth was complicated. It wasn't a single moment. It was watching him learn Tommy's favorite bedtime story. Seeing him research dinosaur facts because Tommy loves them. Realizing that he stays up late worrying about whether Tommy's treatment is working. "But you entered this marriage for financial reasons." "I entered this marriage to save my son's life," Elena said firmly. "But I stayed because I fell in love with the man who chose to save him with me." Tommy's voice. The hearing took an unexpected turn when Judge Stone requested to speak with Tommy privately. Elena's heart raced as she watched her son, looking tiny in the formal courtroom. Speak earnestly with the judge. Later, Judge Stone would tell them that Tommy had said something that changed her entire perspective on the case. "She asked me if Daniel was really my daddy," Tommy told Elena afterward. "And I said he was the best daddy I could have asked for, because he chose to love us even when he didn't have to." The father's fury. Daniel's father, Richard Cross, arrived from New York like a storm front. Lena had expected someone like Daniel, sophisticated, controlled. Instead, Richard Cross was a bitter man in his 70s, clearly resentful of his son's success. "You think you can buy a family like you bought your company?" Richard sneered during their confrontation in Daniel's study. "This woman is using you, and you're too blinded by sentiment to see it. The only person using anyone here is you." Daniel replied coldly. "You've never been a father to me. Don't lecture me about family. I built the foundation you used to create your empire. Everything you have comes from me. And I've built something 100 times greater than what you left me. Without your help, without your approval, and definitely without your love." Medical miracle in the midst of the legal chaos. Dr. Wells called with extraordinary news. Tommy's latest tests showed that the treatment had been even more successful than anyone had dared hope. Not only were his enzyme levels normal, but some of the physical damage from his condition was actually reversing. "In 30 years of practice, I've never seen results like this," Dr. Wells told them. "Tommy isn't just stable, he's healing." That night, they celebrated with Tommy's favorite dinner, pizza, and ice cream, eaten on the living room floor while watching dinosaur documentaries. For a few hours, they were just a family, enjoying good news together. The real test the fraud. Investigation culminated in a surprise visit from investigators who arrived unannounced to observe their natural family dynamic. Elena was helping Tommy with homework while Daniel cooked dinner, something that had become routine over the past 2 months. The investigators expected to find actors playing roles. Instead, they found Daniel patiently explaining fractions using pizza slices while Elena bandaged a scraped knee with the expertise of both a mother and a trained nurse. They saw Tommy run to Daniel first when he was excited about a good grade. And they saw the way Daniel's entire face softened when the boy hugged him. "Mr. Cross," one investigator said afterward, "in 20 years of investigating marriage fraud, I've never seen a family more genuine than yours." Love's declaration that evening, after Tommy was asleep, Daniel found Elena in the garden behind their house. She was tending to the roses she had planted, the first flowers the garden had seen in years. "Elena," he said softly, "I need to tell you something." She looked up, dirt smudged on her cheek, and Daniel thought he had never seen anyone more beautiful. "I love you," he said simply. "Not because of our arrangement, not because of Tommy, though I love him too. I love you because you're brave and fierce and kind. I love the way you hum while you cook. I love that you see the best in people, even in me." Elena stood slowly, her hands trembling. "Daniel, I know this wasn't part of our contract. I know you married me to save Tommy's life. But somewhere along the way you saved mine too." "I love you too," Elena whispered. "I've been trying not to, because it wasn't supposed to be part of the deal. But I can't help it. You're nothing like I thought you'd be. You're better." When they kissed this time, it felt like coming home. The final battle. Richard Cross made one last desperate attempt to destroy his son's happiness. He leaked false stories to the media, claiming that Alina was a gold digger who had manipulated Daniel into marriage. The tabloids ran cruel headlines questioning Tommy's paternity and Elena's motives. The attacks were vicious and personal, but they had an unexpected result. Daniel's employees, friends, and even business rivals rallied around the family. Video footage emerged of Daniel and Tommy at the hospital, clearly showing a father's genuine love for his child. Photos of Alina working at the bookstore before her marriage proved she had never sought wealth or attention. Most powerfully, Dr. Wells held a press conference defending the family's integrity, highlighting the miracle of Tommy's recovery. Justice. Judge Stone's final ruling was swift and decisive. This court finds no evidence of marriage fraud. On the contrary, the evidence shows a family united by love, commitment, and mutual care. Mr. Richard Cross's petition is not only denied but found to be frivolous and potentially defamatory. Richard Cross left Seattle that day, his relationship with Daniel severed permanently, but Daniel felt only relief. He had finally broken free from the bitter legacy of his childhood. New beginnings, 6 months after their wedding. Alina and Daniel stood in the same church where they had married out of necessity. This time, Tommy walked Alina down the aisle. Beaming with pride and perfect health, they renewed their vows, speaking words they had written themselves, promising a love that was real and lasting. "I promise to choose you every day," Daniel said, his voice strong and sure. "Not because I have to, but because I want to, because you and Tommy are my heart, my home, my forever family. I promise to love you not just in the big moments, but in the small ones," Alina replied. "In the quiet mornings and the crazy evenings, in sickness and in health, in wealth and in whatever comes. You saved my son's life, but more than that, you showed me what real love looks like." Tommy, now 8 and completely healthy, had insisted on being the ring bearer again, "because I want to make sure you do it right this time," he had told them. Solemnly, happily ever after, 2 years later, their family had grown in ways Alina never could have imagined. They had established the Tommy Martinez Foundation, funding research and treatment for children with rare genetic conditions. Daniel had stepped back from the day-to-day operations of his company to focus on philanthropy and family. Alina had returned to nursing school, specializing in pediatric care. She wanted to help other families facing what they had been through. Tommy was thriving in school, playing soccer, and still obsessed with dinosaurs. He had asked several times when he might get a little brother or sister. Soon, Alina would tell him, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. She and Daniel had decided to wait until after the first trimester to share their news. But the secret felt like sunshine in her chest. The final truth on the 3rd anniversary of their first wedding. Alina found Daniel in his study, looking at their wedding photos. Not the formal portraits, but the candid shots James had taken throughout the day. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, settling into his lap. "I was remembering what you said that first day, that you were offering me a business merger." Alina laughed. "That seems like a lifetime ago." "You were wrong about one thing," Daniel said, pulling her closer. He said no emotional complications. "But the complications turned out to be the best part." "No regrets?" Alina asked. "Only one," Daniel said seriously. "I regret that I didn't find you sooner." As they sat together in the soft lamplight, Tommy's laughter echoing from upstairs where he was video calling his grandmother, Alina reflected on how a desperate proposal born from a mother's love had become the greatest love story of her life. Sometimes, the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes a contract written in desperation became a covenant written in joy. And sometimes, when you opened your heart to save someone else, you discovered that you had been saving yourself all along. Their love story had begun with a transaction, but it had become a transformation, and the most beautiful part was that it was just the beginning.